All right.
Angela, we have a note taker. Are we? Is that okay? Are we happy with that?
I don't know who is taking the notes. Can you identify yourself? Who is it?
That's me. James Robbins is note taker. This is for personal use, but I can turn it off if people are uncomfortable. It's automatically come into all of my meetings, so I can.
No, James,
turn it off, or it can transcribe, and there's a copy available for everyone.
Yes, please do, because this is useful for all of us. We can put it in our webpage, the transcription. So that's lovely. Just share it with us, please.
I will share it with you, and everyone can have a copy. It will also try and do an AI summary of the meeting,
okay,
as well for you. So
wonderful. For as long as we can all learn together, that's brilliant.
Sure thing.
Thank you, James.
Yeah, thank you. It's just sometimes we have sort of alien note takers that appear out of nowhere, so it's always good to check where they're coming from.
No problem.
Okay, wonderful. Right. Okay, so Rodrigo, very welcome to the Metaforum webinar. As you can see, lots of interest in your presentation and your topic. So please introduce yourself, and then it's all yours. We have discussed already with Rodrigo before you all came, and he will prefer to have the normal format in which he will be presenting for 45 minutes, more or less, and then we will have an open conversation about the topic, okay? So, Rodrigo.
Thanks, Angela. Well, first, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Stafford Beers, friends, and followers. Well, I am a sociologist, and I work as a senior data scientist in Globant. Globant is an Argentinian now multinational enterprise on software development and digital service consultant. I am a coordinator and professor at Universidad de Santiago, University of Santiago, and I am an independent research on philosophy and history of technology fields. I'm gonna share with you a link to a special issue from a journal that depends on the Faculty of Mathematical and Physical Science of University of Chile, dedicated to cybersyn. Raúl Espejo sent a very good work related with that, and Víctor Ganon, the counterpart on the URUSIV. Well, I want to share my presentation, and well, the introduction and motivation. I hear please
feedback. Everyone.
Yeah, if you can. No?
There is a bit of. I don't know if it has the speaker. Would you please? I'm gonna mute people who are not muted to see if we can.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
The three main ideas that I want to develop here are: first, the legacy of Stafford Beer on the current times, related with the definitions about the fourth industrial revolution. Second, cybersyn project beyond the PlayStation, the transformation of this project into a kind of video game. And third, criticism on the notions related with cyberculture, not cyberpunk as Hollywood. Well, in order with these ideas, first, what is a revolution? There are three main ideas about that. First, the process is violent and substitutive. The concept related with creative destruction that came from Joseph Schumpeter, and Joseph Schumpeter take it from Engels. Second, the processes are irreversible, as we see on the PPT. Changes don't regress at the frontier or technological frontier. And the third, and the most important for me, the concept related with acceleration. It's not the same that speed. Speed, it's more visible, but acceleration considers the direction too, not only speed. And on the other hand, what makes a revolution the surname of industrial? Two main ideas. First, technique as technology. In the ancient times, technique is part of the arts and crafts. But with the scientific revolution since Copernicus and Newton, the science has taken the technique and turns into technology, technos plus logos. And we can say now that technique without science is part of crafts. The technique needs scientific fundamentals in order to the industrial order. And the second main idea is the nonlinear scalability of process, when 2 + 2 is more than 4. And on the other hand, the statics elements in order to analyze an industrial revolution, there are 5 elements. First, the scientific foundations, the basis of technological knowledge. Second, the nature of inputs, that's related with the driving forces. Third, self-regulation mechanism involved on each industrial revolution stage. And the insight is from tools to the machines. There is this division of work schema, and the organizational issues emerge as an important thing in this context, and the domestic work. What is the role of the households in all this history? And this is important because the fourth industrial revolution, it's the introduction to the computers to home. And well, if we want to analyze high-level view of the dynamic approach to industrial revolutions, we can remark of these 5 axes on the 4 stages, and we want to start from up to down. The scientific foundations in the first industrial revolution was thermodynamics, the transform of heat to labor, and that's related with the driving force, that's steam. And on the other hand, the second industrial revolution was related with the electromagnetism and logic, the birth of logic in the maths area, and that's related with the electricity as driving force. And at this moment, we consider only hardware on the revolutionary process, not software that's not appears yet. And if we move to the third and the fourth industrial revolutions, we can remark the quantum physics and information theory. And that's the moment that the computers appears on the scene, and cybernetics. And that introduce a critical distinction between hardware and software. It's critical to think information as matter and form at the same time. The computer takes electricity. Electricity is material, but turns it into digits, and digits place in the field of form. Then information is an intermediate entity between matter and form. That's a philosophical issue from the beginning, matter and form, Aristotle, etc. In this distinction between hardware and software, the fourth industrial revolution recognizes fundamental two main scientific foundations: genetics and neurophysiology. The full black box in our brains, and related with the driving forces and self-regulate mechanisms in order to moving forward on this schema. On the third industrial revolution, we got information, Claude Shannon and so on. And the landscape, it's the logic basis of the brain activity, as Warren McCulloch's seminal paper says. The first artificial neural network in history. And what's the driving force related with software on the fourth industrial revolution? The connections, not the logic, the connections. I think seems relational intelligence. And that was in order to the development of internet. And on the self-regulate mechanism in the first industrial revolution, we got the what governor, cybernetics in a nutshell, as Stafford Beer said. And on the second industrial revolution, the electricity, so voltage excuse for the mistake in the writing, voltage regulation and speed drivers. What's the self-regulate mechanism on third and fourth industrial revolution? For now, I gonna put this on open, and it's a thing to be discussed in the following slides. About division of work, we can identify Taylorism on first industrial revolution, and the second industrial revolution is the Fordism. And the third industrial revolution recognized the first software development models, for example, the famous waterfall. But on the fourth industrial revolution, it's the agile methods. That's the main idea on the division of work. And in the domestic world, it's critical because the first industrial revolution is related with the first massive political parties, the modern political parties, the Marx and Engels times, Bakunin and the First International, etc. But the medium is related with the birth of public opinion, the massive newspapers and similars like propaganda, writing propaganda. And on the second, third, and fourth industrial revolution, there's a main process related with the how machines get and went to enter on the households. First the radio, then the television, and now the computers. Since the 1980s and 1990s, more or less. But the main thing on this issue is the kind of relationship between households and the media. The first, the second, and the third, it's a centralized relationship, one to all. It's one message to all people. But on the current industrial revolution, we have a semi-decentralized relationships, many to many, like this, for example. Through Zoom, we can link our activity or chats or etc. And this is a critical thing because in the Stafford-based work, the decentralization is the main thing. But in order to technological constraints, there's no space to project devices in order to relate people to people. But I think that the Stafford-based work is for industrial revolution fundamentals as Aristoteles was to the modern science, foundational. Now, about the CyberSim project, it's how can I say it without God angry? There's a mode to turn the project into a video game. And I think that it can be a good marketing strategy for general public. Yeah, okay. But that's the only thing in 20 years of research and projects related with CyberSim. 20 years for PlayStation. And it's hilarious to see that the joystick on the operating room, it's too similar to the PlayStation joystick in order to identify the geometric figures on the right side. And for me, it's a version of the Deleuze and Guattari statement related with a body without organs. The operation rooms is turned on a body, but without organs, and with nothing. And the criticism related with this is, well, 44 years from the second edition of Brain of the Firm, Stafford Beer included 4 chapters in which describe deeply all the kind of decisions related with the project. For example, on CyberStride, he opened a discussion about the Bayesian approach to short-term forecasting. It's a rich and deep vision about that. And I never seen a work related with this issue, for example, or the computational basis of the Chilean economy, the Checo, the component that simulates economic scenarios implemented on Dynamo. And all this material is on internet. I have no privileged access to the material, only Google. And, well, some emails with the Stafford Beer archive of Liverpool John Moores University. And my question is, why these elements never didn't consider it in the state of art? Well, when Stafford Beers arrived to Chile, he has on his hand the manuscript of the first edition of Brain on the Firm and Platform from Change. And until this moment, it's a classical history about a very reputed scientific that works on a consultant a project on a third world country. But the element that breaks this history is the political and cultural process involved in the popular unit in Chile. The heart and the brain, the meta principle of the viable system model is one-on-one related with the spirit of democratic socialism in Chile. And that's the point in which Stafford Beer learned from the Chilean process and projects the People's Project, the first national popular cyber culture in history, the cyber folk. Yeah. Well, I want to share with you some digitalized original Stafford Beer papers from his archive in order to see what's the secret on these things. Excuse me. Well, it's a high-level view of the ecosystem involved in cyberfolk, and the first page on the archive. Please see the header of the sheet. Corporación de Fomento de la Producción, Chile. It's a national agency that promotes the industrial or promoted the industrial development. March of 1972. It's important because this component was projected before the strike of 1972 in October, but the semi-definitive shape of this component is after the truck strike, and it's well, I think that Raúl Espejo knows very much than me in this history. How can the first data-driven decision by a government in history was implemented in Chile in order to avoid the risk of total collapse on the economy, and the state of the project was critical to face this situation. Well, the objectives of Cyberfolk, four main objectives. Well, I read literal some lines. For me, the first objective, the main ideas, study system dynamics first, and discoveries in the realm of psychocybernetics. It's a very critical thing. Two, to make a cybernetic analysis of the power structures. The power structures as a system. And third, well, to make experiments in England in order to validate these ideas, and in order to make recommendations to the government, the four main objectives. And I want to remark some ideas on the context of the management of variety, on the political context, excuse for redundancy. And well, the first idea is the decisions of the government have low variety compares with the needed application to the case of the individual citizen. And this alignment between the citizen timing and the bureaucratic and government timing. Second, Beers identify two new effects as we can read on the slide. First, the explosive rate of change, revolutionary process. The growth of technology, like Moore's law, the rise of the political aspirations. This is critical because the liberals identify the birth of modern politics with Machiavelli. This is not true. The true is the first modern parties structured on the starts of 20th century. That's the modern politics. The relationship with the working class, with the government structures. Without this relationship, there's no modern politics. It's traditional politics. The outside world condition and the Cold War fundamental. And second effect, the availability of mass media of communication, especially TV. At this moment, the IRT, a national firm that produces televisions, radios, and records, implemented a politic on the massive productions of these artifacts. My father, a working class man from Renca. Renca is a industria. It's like Renca is in Chile as Birmingham. It's in England. One of the cradles of the working class in our country. And he told me that his first TV was at this time. And with on the other hand, the model that beers use to project the situation is the loop that he draw the algedonic meter. How government can attenuate the variety of the citizens and how the government can amplify its range of action in order to satisfy citizens' aspirations and needs. As we can see on the slide, massive amplification, massive change of periodicity. The time is critical. The only way to implement a model between government and citizens, it's in near to real time. And on the other hand, as we can read on the slide, it follows that the people should be provided with the new means of communication. Like my father, with the government which, first, match the amplification of government variety with less attenuation of this variety, reestablishing the Ashby law, variety requisite or requisite of variety, operate on the same time scale that is immediately. And third, use technology to serve the people as well as the government. For me, that's the seed of a true cyberculture, not a poser cyberculture. I take the distinction because since I was a child, I hear and live the heavy metal music. And heavy metal is a distinction, true poser. True comes deep from the inside and honestly, without fear to the environment. Poser depends always on the environment. And the end of this presentation, we're gonna present a true cyberculture and compares with the poser cyberculture. Hollywood point of view. Well, then Beer developed the notion of the algedonic loop. The algedonic, it's the composition is pain and pleasure, algedonic. And this is the point in the red square. For me, it's another seed for the cyberculture discussion. The whole system could be seen as a giant teaching machine. Orwell, the Big Brother, and all this stuff. To condition the public, some as writing advocated this. Advantage, such a change in eating habits to suit the food supply, could easily be outweighed by loss of freedom. The poser cyberculture that identifies like a Foucaultian point of view, all is like a jail. Yeah. And if we see again the ecosystem involved on this component, at the hello.
It's okay. It's okay. Go on.
There's a problem with share my screen.
Try again. Try again.
Yeah. It's an update of my Chrome. Excuse me. Excuse me. I'm gonna fix it now.
If you want to do that, you can just continue talking to us without the PowerPoint.
Yeah. Well, I at the top of this figure, we got the cybernetic analysis, the point of view that drives all these things. And I have my presentation here. And here. Excuse me. Yeah. And that's it.
Great. Perfect. It's all right. Sorted. Well done.
Okay. And then we have three components, the five principles. The first cyberculture manifesto, true cyberculture. The recursive model, that's a common knowledge between us, I think, and the cybersense system. But for me, it's important to relate with all the products that derivates from five principles: guides, songs, booklets, paintings, posters, with the mass media, on the other hand, radio, films, etc. And the element that intermediates all this flux, it's the algedonic meeting. The meta principles. This is a Spanish version of Stafford Beer works that names Fanfare for the Effective Freedom. But this work was translated to Spanish by Corfo and calls the Cybernetic Practice on Government, Práctica Cibernética en el Gobierno. And it says as follows: the first time that I explained it to President Allende, the cybernetic model of viable system, I drew it in a paper put in the table between he and me. I drawn for him all the interconnected homeostatic systems based on the neurophysiological version of the model, since he's a doctor. The system consists in 5 hierarchical levels, and I was explained to him from down to up. The first, the second, the third, and the fourth. At the moment, at the 5 level, I assume a dramatic just to saying, and this compañero presidente is you. But President anticipated me, and with a wide smile says, "At last the people." This situation changed all Stafford Beer's life and vision about that. in any place on this world, Staffordville face the true and deep meta principles of viability. And from this meta principle, passing to the three, as I know at last, the three official documents from the project. Cybernetic practice in the government, Staffordville, Fanfare for Reflecting Freedom, control concepts and practice and concrete experience on the industrial direction in Chile by Raúl Espejo in this room, and a document generated by INTEC, the Technological Institute of Chile. February 1973 and June 1973. And from this meta principle, the people is the system 5. Staffordville, days after the truck strike, redacted this kind of manifesto or manual, handbook, the 5 principles for the people towards a good government. These 2 statements for me are so important. The first statement, the revolution of ownership is 2 years old, but it is time for the revolution of government to begin. It's like Marx said, about with capitalism, the prehistory of humanity ends. And it's time to birth the true history. Well, I want to remark some aspects that relate the common good with the capability of technology to habilitate it. As we see down at the right, the compañero presidente says, government is the people. Allende said, the people not participate in the government. The people is the government. And then he wrote, the wishes of the people will be made known to this government at all times, the centrality of time. We shall use technology which belongs and the people to do it. The second principle, as we can see down and right again, we have already used technology to link 60% of the social sector directly to components in their nation's capital, which sends back immediately advice to the enterprise. We shall extend this kind of service to all the people by some means, from an economic control to a society and culture. The third principle, we shall replace bureaucracy with a precise and clear network of officials whose only job is to help, to give answers. We shall keep paperwork to a minimum essential records. People cannot eat paper. As I read in Stafford's work and other team members' work, Staffordville hates the paper. There's no paper in the operating room. Yeah. And the fourth principle, of course, officials really want to help. After the third principle is obeyed, they will have opportunity and the time to know the people they are proud to help. It's like a synergic principle on the collaboration. And the last principle, the fifth, the future is not a blank, nor is it inescapably worsening. For the first time in history, man knows enough to provide the kind of society that he wants. It smells like a class consciousness. We shall help the people to understand the options, then the people must decide. It's sad for Chileans to see the situation that projected in the right side of the slide, 1973 to 1980, and the desirable situation and the right side of the slide. And the last page of this works says, if the government is the people, the revolution of government starts with you, me, and us. Well, the artifacts on this ecosystem, the first real-time audience measure system, the algedonic meter. And then it's at the right of the slide, we can see the schema, the algedonic loops between government and people. On the right hand, the amplifier functions from TV and mass media. On the right hand of the slide, the attenuator functions to inform to the government. And the right side of the slide, it's important because the team was in a discussion about the personal data. We want to know that each people think about the government. No, we want the sum of charge. Because if we that's the statement on this context. If we know if we know the opinion of individuals, the individuals don't have the incentives to say the truth. We know now that that's not the way on the effective performance of the personalization systems. But the core of this discussion is, it's important like an historic for the history in terms of what is the direction of the acceleration, the revolutionary process, not only the speed. What is the direction? Or what could be the alternative direction? Yeah. And on cyberculture, that is an official poster. Our friend, the computer, to present this new machinery as an organic component of the nation, not like a mechanical animal, satanic animal. Ángel Cereceda Parra, the man in the photo, was a son of Violeta Parra, one of most universal artists in Latin American history. And Stafford Beer, when he went to Chile, visited the Parras Peña, a kind of place, a place that we played, the people play music and drink wine. And Stafford Beer went to the Peña, Parras Peña, or Peña de los Parra, and Ángel said in an interview with Enrique Rivera that he talked with Stafford Beer about the project, and Ángel Parra was astonished with the main goals of the project and wrote a song dedicated to the project. Litany of a Computer and a Child Yet to Be Born. Excuse me for the mistake in the writing. And as he said, we almost enter in this early March, sweeping away cobwebs of ignorance and dependence, demanding the benefits that science grants us before our patience runs out. I'm going to say it in Spanish. Todos debemos entrar en esta marcha terrena, descorriendo telarañas de ignorancia y dependencia, exigir los beneficios que nos regala la ciencia antes que se acabe la paciencia. True cyberculture, not opposite with the context, but moving forward to a new history, a new context, something to say, not something to deny. And that's not the only one in Chile. In Chile, there is a rich history that converge on this concept of cyberculture. For example, José Vicente Azuar, in the 50s, he developed an electromechanical system to generate sounds and music. And 1975, he composed spectral variations or variaciones espectrales, the first Latin American music work with these synthesizers. And in the 60s, he wrote a very beautiful work called Electronic Music and Musical Poetics of Our Days, in order to expand the horizon in a third world country that in this context suffers hunger and analphabetism. We are thinking of a new poetics of music. Oof. And this record is the first Chilean record on electronic music with Juana Amenábar, a collaborator of José Vicente Azuar, and in the 70s, and it's a particular situation. On 1973, Azuar record and the Department of Physics in the University of Chile, the first Latin American recording generated by computer, only by computer. And the record, please, I recommend, it's in YouTube. I recommend to you, please, to hear this record. It's like a cyber scene of music, cyberculture, true cyberculture, that explain how computers can expand our imagination, our creativity. Yeah. For example, up and right of the slide, it says, it must be done. There's no doubt. If a risk of our current disciples, the computers, someday, excuse me, my English is not perfect, as you can hear, but as the computer someday won to us and extended an employees certified. But the will of science, the art science, is turning around, and it's impossible to stop it. This last thing is worst. It's equivalent to self provide the function certified, the virtuous computer, computador virtuoso. Always I think that if the project, well, in alternative history, Azuar was working on cyberfolk, in the next steps of cyberfolk, in a discotheque driven by electronic music to expand our cyberculture, a true cyberculture. And well, Humberto Maturana and Francisco Varela work, it's critical in this context too. Varela worked with Warren McCulloch and Walter Pitts in the famous work related with what frog eyes tell to frog's brain. Excuse me if I don't remember exactly. Autopoiesis and cognition, or the realization of the living. That's only Varela tells the truth in the anniversary edition. The role of Stafford Beer on this work. Nobody in the international context wants to publish this work. Stafford Beer moves earth, sea, and sky to publish this work first in English, but Editorial Universitaria, a Chilean publishing related with the University of Chile, then publishing in Spanish, and Stafford Beer wrote a preface to the first English edition in 1980, if I remember well. Maturana talks nothing about this. In an interview with Enrique Rivera, you can search and find and listen. He talks almost crap about the CyberSyn project. That's the truth. It's Maturana words, not mine. Only Varela tells the truth about the role of Stafford Beer on the most important scientific revolution from Chile. Well, in order to finish my presentation, as I said minutes ago, in heavy metal culture, we have a fundamental distinction: true versus posers. And where there is a poser cyberculture. Against all negative a negative philosophic point of view that only fits the fetishism on Hollywood movies, that make us to think that it's more probably that Skynet emerged from the earth and eat us than that we make a deep change of our current world. The Pirate Party, Anonymous, Tikkun, whatever. That's the image of cyberculture, that industry offered to us. And in my opinion, one of the Stafford Beer's legacy is to develop a true concept of cyberculture beyond rebellion, utopia, and other colonial fetishism. Utopia, I hate this term. Utopia, it means no place. This history occurred in one place, occurred in Chile, with Chilean organizations related with the working class and political parties. It's not a fantasy, it was real. For this reason, I hate the word utopia. Stafford Beer and the Popular Unit wasn't utopia, was real. And well, thank you for listening this presentation and to participate to preserve and expand the Stafford Beer's legacy. As I say to my friends, Stafford Beer is the Leonardo da Vinci of the fourth industrial revolution. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo. Really interesting and exciting presentation. I am very grateful with you since Marcus Wetzler actually introduced me to your work, and we decided to invite you. I've been looking forward to seeing your point of view of this. I'm very happy that Raúl Espejo is here, and I'm sure that he will have lots of things to say. But the first impression is really interesting to see this particular aspect of the CyberSyn project that I know that has been overlooked by the majority of authors and people that have been researching the project. We have seen many, many publications about the cyber scene, and many of them coincide in looking at the cyber scene like the technology, but the technology as a way of controlling the people, controlling the workers, controlling the central government, managing technology, while what you refer to, and it's exactly what I felt when I heard from Stafford himself about the cyber scene project, that the most exciting bit of the project was precisely this completely changing the idea of governance and the way of involving the people in the government. So let's open the conversation. I'm pretty sure that there will be lots of questions and comments. So who would like to start? Raúl. You are muted. You have to unmute. Raúl.
Many thanks, Rodrigo. It's good to get back to all those days. I think one point that would be interesting to connect with what you have been saying is el Museo de la Solidaridad, the Museum of Solidarity. That is a major development that happened in those days. And unfortunately, you didn't pick it up in the conversation. But we have one of our members, Carlos Sena Figueiredo, has written about that, and now that article about the Museo of Solidarity is in the hands of the people in the Catholic University and the ones who have developed the ones who have developed this in a way, this is a fantastic account of what we did in those years. Because not only on the minimal part is the operations room, the major part is all the aspects connected to design and artifacts for the people. So I think somehow I see a fantastic connection between Ángel Parra and the music that emerged from his conversations with Stafford and the Museum of Solidarity. And I think together with all the aspects of our work there, creates a general picture of what was the development that happened in those days. I don't want to continue developing these, but I just thought that the idea of the Museum of the Solidarity is something we cannot leave out.
Thank you, Raúl.
Thank you.
We have Gabriela Sato. You want to comment to everyone, Gabriel?
It's in the chat.
Hello. I want to comment something about the presentation. Remind me some interesting present initiatives, like the notion of the need of the development of participatory governance in order to cope with present complexities, that are demanded by the social framework, and also it reminds me the Obama's initiatives about open government, where he links the participatory governance and information technology. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you.
Okay, who else would like to talk to Rodrigo? comment on Rodrigo's presentation.
Ask a question.
Yes, Brunella, please.
Thank you very much, Rodrigo. I have actually two questions. One is concerning the algedonic loop. You say it shouldn't be, it should be implemented beyond rebellion, if I understand well. But how is it possible to implement it without rebellion? Because something is implementing it through a reaction to oppression. What about now? Now, in which how, if you think of the Western countries in which these alleged distributed agencies seems to exist, even if actually it doesn't. How can we trust the people? In Italian, when we say populism or populism, we have a negative connotation, because it doesn't guarantee that the people, doesn't it imply trial and error? I'm curious about knowing, but I mean, isn't it risky?
Yeah, and the second?
This is a second question, which is connected. Concerning what BS says in the 5 principles, the action must be taken in real time, must be quick. The future is now, etc. This emphasis on contingency, which is absolutely important, because it implies an overcoming of the communist revolutions that were hierarchical. But this emphasis on contingency, doesn't it require too much trial and error? I don't know if I'm clear.
Yeah, on the first question, it's like when Descartes put the act of doubt into context, doubt as a goal, doubt as a mean. If the doubt is a goal, then it's a circular exercises, not in order to see the truth. On this reason, Descartes called methodical doubt, not sceptical doubt. It's the same with rebellion. Victor Jara, do you know Victor Jara? Hmm?
No.
Victor Jara was the most important musician in the contemporary history of Chile. Killed by dictatorship, 44 bullets on his body. Victor Jara says in an interview in Peruvian television, when the journalist asked to him the protest song, North American label to the popular music. And he answers, I am not protesting. I want to present you the popular spirit of our cultural substract on an historical experience. This is the goal. And if in the road you must reveal to the powers, well, but the driving force, it's an affirmative action related with what we are, what constitutes us, not rebellion as a goal. It's a cyberpunk. Cyberpunk wants the rebellion as a goal. The revolutionary wants rebellion as a road in order to achieve a reconciliation with our difference and our inequalities and etc. The democratic socialism horizon. The goal of democratic socialism was not to put down to the rich people. It's to make happy all the nation. And if in the road we must resolve issues, well, it's a work to do, but not the goal. For me, this is a critical aspect putting in order of my generation. For my generation, rebellion it's a cool way of life, not the meaning of life. The meaning of life is put in history what we are, not what the others want from us, what we are, for our culture, for our historical experience. And on the second question, it's a field of research, I think, because in Fanfare for Effective Freedom, Stafford says the debate between centralization and decentralization is a moralistic point of view. If we going to walk from this point of view, we never gonna take the main problem. If the society is a system, then we need to identify and Stafford Beer says the follow. I think that can be computed, the equilibria between decentralizations and centralizations in order to improve the viability of all organizations and its subsystems. For me, it's important because the current massive data systems operates on this way. Decentralized for us, but full centralized at the data centers. I working on this. I querying different data ecosystems that with one button, I know all the people's choices and preference. And I think that's a field of discovery for philosophical, epistemological, and ethical issues. And postmodernists made too bad to this issue because put a moralistic point of view. Schools as jails, house as jails, jails as jails. No, that for me that's not the way. In order to see a realistic components of social control, not only the views about social control that fits boring pictures, boring films at this time for me. The Big Brother is boring. But that's my point of view about your two questions. Please listen to Victor Jara, the most true on heavy metal and world music for me.
I will. Thank you.
Because he wired the popular spirit without hate. For my generation, it's impossible. If you don't hate, you don't be true. That is a false dilemma. False dilemma. It's a way that the industry. Excuse me, but there are other questions too. But that is my position.
Thank you very much. Very interesting.
Thank you, Rodrigo, and thank you, Brunella, for really good questions and answers. Thank you very much. We have John Lee waiting to make a comment, and then Pile. John?
Thank you. Thank you, Rodrigo. I'm the author of the Reader's Guide for Platform for Change that came out in '94. This came out in '74. This is still enormously true. That's number one. Okay. Number two, I want to make the distinction between the word revolution, which has become normalized, and paradigm shift. If you look at paradigm shift, what you're talking about is a transformation in everybody's consciousness, so it's a new world. 2 + 2 + 2 does not add up to anything anymore. The world we live in is the equivalent of the angels on the head of a pin. The numbers that we're managing in energy and in electoral politics are completely bogus because they're so global and they're so centralized in terms of how they're developed. So there's a completely different world happening in the mainstream reality that most people are paying attention to and then using the money system to get their needs met. But I'm in California and I'm working in Florida for the last year and a half on the abortion ban. And when I've gone to Florida, I've only interacted with rich people and working class people. And the working class people know that the economy is dead. So they are thinking in systems terms. They are thinking in terms of viability. They are thinking in terms of sustainability out of necessity. The economy is not meeting their needs anymore. It is just as bad in America as it is in Chile today. We are a ruling class economy, but we do not have a ruling class economy anymore, and neither does China. So, number one, agility is more important every day because of the internet. So that's where I'm going to end up. But I'm almost at the end. I think that the lesson of John Walker's analysis of VSM is 7 is the maximum working group. If we are now so complex and so complicated that if you have more than 8 people, you need to divide into 2 terms. And that corporate capitalism cannot survive in that world. And what we're seeing is a plane flying at Mach 2 falling apart. And so the numbers that we're watching are completely bizarre. The pandemic did a great deal to destroy corporate capitalism. We no longer have corporate capitalism. We have China financing the global economy, and the US is trying to survive, and it's not working. We're going to have to get through the election in November. I love your talk. Thank you. The bad news is I don't understand your English nearly well enough, and you don't understand my Spanish at all. So El Presidente, this is you. That's one of my favorite. I'm getting goosebumps. I love that line. The number 5 needs to be the people. Dankeschön.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, John.
Pile, is
no.
You are still muted. Muted.
You are muted, Pile.
Pile, you're muted.
Yeah, she's trying to unmute, but last time we had the same problem. So do you need a bit more time, Pile? Shall we carry on while you find how to do it? If you can't, just do what we did last time. Just put your comment in the chat if you don't manage to unmute, okay? Okay, while we wait for Pile, I would like to invite Mark Pearson. Is Mark still here? Yeah? Mark Pearson, is he gone?
I think he's gone, and I found how to unmute. My mouse battery died, which is why I couldn't.
Great, Pile, come on, go on.
I have a very small comment. When you were presenting, I was very much reminded of the ethos of the 1950s and 1960s and 70s that I lived through, when there was an optimism and an energy in that optimism. And then I look at what I hear nowadays, the ethos and the attitude of the general public is more one of the cynicism and despair that everything's going wrong. There's nothing we can do. And I find that you carry that same energy that I remember. But how do we infect that kind of attitude into the current situation? You suggested music. Maybe that is it. But I don't see it happening here around me in Western Canada. Maybe I'm not listening to the right groups, but I don't encounter it. Well, I don't have the feel of it.
Well, I recommended you a Chilean band called Los Prisioneros, The Prisoners. Víctor Jara, Violeta Parra. Well, the history of popular unit was a fantastic font source of meaning of life for me. because I think that's two main tasks to do for the rest of my life on this sense. Work, 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 and sow the seed. Because we can trust on the uncertainty of the destiny of the seed. We never know when the seed goes down. And that's, for me, it's like a religion in the sense of that keeps the faith on the seeds someday will germinate it. And for me, it's beautiful to meet with the generations related with Stafford Beer work. It's an honor and a pleasure, as I said at the start of this meeting. And that since 15 years, I are in parties talk with this. And for me, the parties and I are in my life, it's like a KPI. More parties I are in with his history, for me it's good because the seed is sowed and sowed and sowed. Like I know the distinction between optimism and pessimism, like Antonio Gramsci said, the pessimistic of intelligence and the optimistic of the will, always.
How do we bring that to people in the world, not just close to you in Chile, where you have the music that comes from the indigenous situation there? What do I have here?
I'm gonna, well, meanwhile I hear the other questions, yes. I'm gonna write you.
Yeah, we have to be something that arises in this culture.
Well, I would like to participate in this conversation between Pelea and Rodrigo. What I was trying to say was a comment that Mark Pearson put in the chat. Mark Pearson has been talking to John and me recently, and he recommended us to read a book called Plurality. And we've been reading this book. John Walker, would you remind me the name? Is Audrey Tan, the author?
Yeah, Audrey Tang, who's the digital minister in Taiwan.
Yes, yes. The story is fascinating because Audrey Tan has been using digital technology to create a completely democratic participatory society, and he has succeeded immensely. And this book is a book that has been co-authored by a group of people by participating all together through the internet. And the most beautiful thing is that this has been put into practice to give a voice to the citizens of Taiwan to participate in creating a social democracy. And the most exciting thing is that this guy is quoting Stafford Beer, no, as one of the people that saw this dream happening when the technology didn't happen. And now this group of people are demonstrating this is possible now that we have the technology. Yeah. And it's really fascinating, the book, the ideas. So it is happening. I mean, somehow Stafford's dream about the People's Project, it is resuscitating somewhere else in the world, not in the Western culture, not in the American, not in America or Europe. It is sort of growing with a new generation of people of Rodrigo's age, new generation of people that are working with a different way of making politics, making culture, yeah. And so the ideas are not dead. That is my note of optimism. I think that John and me, John, you should comment on this, but I think that we are both very challenged and excited to see that these ideas are not dead. These ideas are somehow the seeds, as Rodrigo was saying, the seeds have been sown, and somehow some people are identifying these seeds and coming back with really interesting things. So
yeah, and I think the ideas are coming up in different contexts as well. I mean, if you put Audrey Tang in for a TED talk, you get a 20-minute talk, which is truly inspirational and does have resonance with a lot of things Stafford was doing in in Chile. The other thing about the book, which kind of really surprised me, was that when Stafford's mentioned, there's a little asterisk, and you go down the bottom of the page to the reference, and it says, to learn more about Stafford beer, read Dan Davis' book, The Unaccountability Machine, which is extraordinary, because this is another book that Vanilla recommended to us, which is all about how Stafford understood back in the 1950s what was wrong with neoliberalism. And so in the last couple of weeks, we've had these two quite extraordinary new references to Stafford coming out, and it's like the guy just never lies down. I mean, he's always popping up whenever you expect it least. So yeah, it feels like there's. I think the Dan Davis book is going to be quite influential, because he's being read. He's in the Guardian. He was in the London Review of Books. It was all sorts of things. So he just keeps reappearing.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Okay, well, I don't know if there is any final comments, but if not, yes.
Angela, I just put the plurality reference from the website on the chat.
Great, thank you, John. Okay, well, Rodrigo, you offered to share your presentation, so if you send it to me, I can post it in the Metaforum website, so that if anyone wants to continue this conversation with you, they can do it. And thank you for coming, and see you in Berlin. We're looking forward to your presentation in Berlin.
Sorry, see you in Oxford.
As well. Are you okay? Both in Oxford and in Berlin then. Thank you.
Let me see my wallet.
Okay. All right. So thank you to all. We have announced another webinar, a final webinar this semester. It's on the 26th of June. It's going to be a kind of workshop. We're going to be comparing the VSM with a Chinese approach to innovation and to sort of governance that is taking a lot of strength in China. And so we're going to be having a conversation comparing these two ways of thinking about governance. So we'll look forward to see you again on the 26th. And after that, we'll have a break for the two, and we'll get together, some of us in Oxford, in the Festschrift to Raúl. And then those of us that will go to Berlin as well, in Berlin, talking about the viability and creativity. So thank you very much. See you on the 26th.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Rodriguez. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.